morning, everyone. Before we begin, I acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and the connections to land, sea and community. I pay my respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. In the spirit of National Reconciliation Week and their 2022 theme of Be Brave, Make Change, I encourage everyone to learn about our shared histories and to explore how each of us can contribute to achieving reconciliation in Australia. Morning, everyone. We're really excited to be here. My name's Nicole, and I head up the digital analytics team at RACV.
And I'm Lou, and I lead the design and digital experience function at RACV. The design protectionist is over, and with it comes more trust for design. Over the last 10 years of my career, I've seen design grow and mature from strength to strength. Design teams are everywhere, and the opportunities in Australia have never been so good. And this is what really excites me about design capability and teams here in Melbourne. However, one thing I continue to hear lots of designers reference is wanting that seat at the table, struggling to get the funding for those big ticket items, or just being so frustrated that the business doesn't understand the value of design. And while there'll never be a perfect silver bullet, in my experience, collaboration and measurement have been absolutely key to building trust in design at RACV. As an industry, we need to think beyond the traditional role of design. I'd go as far to say that in 2022, design needs digital analytics to continue to elevate and cement its role in organisations and at the table.
Before we start, let us introduce ourselves a little bit more. So this is just something little we started to do at RACV when we all started working together during the pandemic, and many of us hadn't met each other. And what we would do at the end of the week is we'd have someone show a few photos about themselves that best represents who they are and how they've ended up in their role. So we're going to show you ours. So I'm going to start. I'm Nick. I am a 90s grunge tragic. I used to love going to music festivals like this picture way back at, when I used to go to the Big Day Out. I grew up in Perth, so bands never went west, so I used to love it when actually live music would come over. But my second photo is a whole different life. It's a photo of my family. These are my kids when they're much younger. They're now 13 and 16, so they're nowhere near as cute as what this photo is right now. But someone who is cute is our dog. She loved the pandemic. It was the best thing ever for her. I was around all the time. And she loves going to her spa days, which is why she's all fluffy in that photo. And the final photo is a photo of the University of WA. I did a sports science degree. I did a rehab, I went down the rehab path and I did a PhD. And I went into a whole other career in clinical research before I changed careers in industries about 7 years ago. And in doing so, I was able to bring so many things from my research career into digital. And then over the last 5 years, I've had the opportunity to set up and run some amazing digital analytics and personalisation teams.
And as I mentioned, I'm Lou, and I'm actually currently away on my most significant work yet, becoming a parent to my daughter Hetty. She turns 6 months today. I was actually the first design employee at RACV about 5 years ago now, and that next picture up there is in my first month at RACV, running a lunchtime kind of intro to human-centred design just in our kitchen. Since then, I'm just so proud of how RACV has embraced design. We've grown from a team of 1 to a diverse group of 35, working across design, content, digital product, digital analytics, and just so much more. Next up, we've got a much younger, much fresher version of me graduating, and my path to design was far from traditional. I actually started studying nutrition and dietetics, and I quickly realised that wasn't for me and moved to a Bachelor of Health and Social Sciences. That takes me to my photo 4. This is actually in my dorm room on exchange at the University of Sheffield. Long story short, but when I got there, all of my subjects were unavailable, and it gave me the opportunity to try something new and a little bit different. I tried some electives in sociology and business innovation. And it wasn't until 4 years later, where I followed a graduate program, that I took my leap of faith formally into taking my career into design forward. It was a 10-week secondment looking at the role of human-centred design in organisational culture. It was such a risk with such a short-term opportunity, but it was one worth taking, and I've never looked back. So now that you know a little bit about us, let's get back to our presentation. The difficult stakeholder. We've all been there. The stakeholder who questions your research, challenges if you're really going after the right problem, and is always talking about sample size and where that quantitative data is. The one that you put your armour on for. Until recently, I'd always found these stakeholders more challenging. I'd longed to transform them into qualitative, insight-loving, diary-obsessed design evangelists by bringing them on the journey with me and opening their eyes up to the value of design. That wasn't until I started working with Nicole, my wonderful digital analytics colleague. By fusing design and digital analytics together, we have enriched our work, we've uplifted stakeholder engagement, and it's helped us earn that seat at the table. And since pairing design with digital analytics, we have significantly improved how we measure, what we work on, and how we work on it. But what's also happened is that difficult stakeholder, they're just not so difficult anymore. They're engaged, interested, and wanting to learn more. With digital analytics, we've translated our design work into something more meaningful for them. By bringing digital analysts, taggers, and designers together, we've rounded out the way we talk about our work and its impact.
So what we're talking about here is the importance of measurement in the design process, but not in the way it's traditionally been done. So we've referenced this quote, "You can't manage what you can't measure." Now, variations of the statement has been around forever, and it talks to the importance of having clearly established metrics to quantify your progress, because without it, you're simply in a constant state of guessing. Now, there are those who didn't agree with this view, and there was actually a paper published back in the 50s called The Dysfunctional Consequences of Performance Measurement, where the authors flip it to say, actually, what gets measured gets managed, even if it's pointless to measure and manage it, and even if it harms the purpose of the organisation to do so. I agree with both perspectives and understand where they're both coming from, but you really can't manage what you can't measure. But I would go on to say, watch out for measuring all of the things. And leading a digital analytics team, I see this all the time. There is this appetite to measure everything, even when it's not tied explicitly to what is trying to be influenced. And it's our job as an analytics team to work with design teams and the broader business to identify and articulate what they really care about and what really should be measured. This should kick off a whole process where design and analytics teams work together much earlier on and then continually throughout the journey.
But what does this mean for design? Well, it means that in 2022 and beyond, we need to explore the role of measurement in the design process and consider how this may influence the way we work, design, and deliver. Some of you might be sitting here thinking, well, I already consider measurement in the way I practice design today. And I've got no doubt that many of you do. But how many of you are genuinely open to using measurement hand in hand in your practice? Are you willing to be challenged with what measurement might actually bring to your work? I used to think I used measurement well in my practice of design. But when I look back now, I realise I was using measurement to validate or add to my work, my hypotheses, my processes, and my outcomes. I got data to further support my research findings. I won't ask for a show of hands, but take a moment and let's reflect on when you've engaged digital analytics teams in your work. Have you been guilty of only using measurement to add weight, the numbers, or further validating what you believe to be true? From working with Nicole and her team of digital analysts and taggers, I've discovered the further depth of insight that can be achieved when we reframe their role in the design process. But we have to be open to it. Digital analytics will challenge your hypotheses and not always support your design or research in the way that you intended. But from my experience, being open to it strengthens insights, makes recommendations more robust, and quantifies the impact of our work at scale.
And when it comes to enriching your design practice, it means working with the digital analytics team to quantify the opportunity in the first place so that you can demonstrate the value of the changes you're looking to make. So historically, digital analytics teams, they would be engaged quite late in the process. A common scenario might be that designs will go into development, published to production, and it would only be then that the business or the design teams would come to an analytics team and ask for some reporting. And then that may or may not involve us socialising that out to the broader business. The problem with this is that there's been no planning behind those outcomes. So think of it like any research project. You wouldn't start any research without having a hypothesis you're trying to prove or disprove. Clearly stated aims and objectives that support your methodology, and then clear metrics defined to measure the impact of those changes. So by being more considered in your approach at the start, it will give you the tools to take the right message, package it up into a deck for an executive stakeholder so that they can see the value of what you're proposing. So here's the distinction. Measure what matters and then justify why it matters. And this is why we're here, and we're really excited to talk to you a little bit more about how we've implemented this at RACV.
But this didn't happen overnight. Some very intentional actions and some unplanned wins got us there. And first, we started with structure. Our structure was very intentional. Initially, our functions were dispersed across the organisation, and we still came together through alignment, collaboration, and cross-functional initiatives. But we wanted to be much more deliberate in how these teams work together and deliver the experiences for our customers. We wanted to ensure that we had all the right ingredients to truly be design-led and allow us to discover, design, test and learn in the one team working towards the same goal. We didn't know how we'd work together on day one, but that didn't matter. We had our team set up with all the right functions in the one place. What we built was actually a design-led practice, but with capabilities beyond that of a traditional design team. And on day one, our structure was far from perfect, but at least we had our North Star set. We had mixed levels of experience and maturity across these functions, and for some capabilities, such as content design, we didn't even have a team in place yet, but that didn't matter. We got started and focused on building that experience and that capability over time. The other call out is here that we didn't fully understand each other's capabilities and the cross-functional opportunities that existed. For example, I really didn't know that much about digital analytics, tagging and their platforms.
And to be honest, I knew very little about what service design did and very little about the range of design disciplines in general. But it didn't matter. We were open to learning and sharing about each other's functions and capabilities. And once we had our structure, we had to figure out how we were going to work together and develop a way of working that enhanced what we were already doing. So we knew there was a significant number of opportunities for improvement, and we knew that the structure we had was new to RACV. We went in with an open mindset, and we had no preconceived ideas of how we should work or who should lead. And then within our own team, we had to be open to how different disciplines would go about solving a problem, and also be very intentional that we would learn from each other. So for example, we started running Digital Analytics 101 sessions, and the service design team started running Introduction to HCD. But it certainly always didn't go smoothly, and we had a few bumpy meetings, particularly in the early days, where the data didn't always support uplifts that had taken place. And I get it, there has been a lot of work put into some of these initiatives, and when it doesn't drive the desired outcome, it can be really challenging to accept. And there was the problem. We were still at that point, two different teams coming from different angles defending our own craft. We still really weren't collaborating as a team. So on the one hand, design needed to trust data, while we as an analytics team, we needed to be much more forthright on becoming involved early and then informing what we thought should be measured and why. And as we grew to understand our roles, our collaboration improved by creating a number of cross-functional squads who had a clear purpose in mind and a problem to solve. And when we went about identifying and prioritising which problem to solve, we started to think about what we really wanted to achieve and really focus on the what that mattered. So when you think about RACV, it's likely that the first thing you think of is the yellow roadside assistance vans that you see around. But what we do is much more diverse than that. We offer home trades assistance. We do insurance for your house, for your car, if you go travelling. We do financing for loans. We have all our resorts and our travel and experience offerings. We have energy products. We have drive school. We do vehicle inspections. The list is really long. And with RACV being a member-led organisation, it's allowed us to be member-led in our thinking and design-led in our approach. And it's allowed us to really lead with the member or the customer in mind. This diversity also meant, though, we had to really focus on areas where we could significantly uplift our digital experience and also where those biggest areas of opportunity were. And the digital focus was not just about enabling new sales online, but about providing a seamless experience that continued post-purchase.
And one of these most significant opportunities for RACV was to improve our digital payments experience. Seamless digital payments experiences are such a crucial point in most customer journeys, but they are particularly important for RACV, with so many of our products being yearly renewable subscription products. The reality is that our digital payment experience had room for improvement, and the volume of customers paying online just wasn't where we expected it to be. Through initial customer research, it was clear a large proportion of our customer base wanted to pay their bills online, but in reality, they ended up completing their payments in our call centre. And not only did this deliver a suboptimal customer experience, it also added significant friction to such a crucial moment in our customer journey. The friction created churn risk and added cost to our call centre with calls that customers didn't even want to make in the first place. As a design and digital experience function, we set out to improve and uplift this experience. But after several rounds of customer research, UX heuristics, and staff intercepts, it was clear design couldn't solve this problem alone. Regardless of demographic and device type, some customers had a seamless, frictionless payment experience, and others were unable to complete their payment online. We needed to get under the hood of our digital experience system. And hashing this out with our digital analysts and taggers, we were able to identify a different way of completing customer research at scale, but also at pace.
And so from the customer research and NPS verbatims, we knew we had a sense of what was going on. At the time, there wasn't an extensive amount of digital tagging in place, but we knew from the digital data we had that we had good traffic. But there was a huge amount of people who were not completing the payment online once they'd started. We looked at the start to finish completion rates of what was tagged, and we're able to present this to the business to demonstrate the opportunity and therefore the priority. This allowed us to quantify that opportunity and then either apply a dollar value to either the lost renewals or the cost of the members switching channels to complete their transaction through the call centre, which is a much more expensive channel. This made it very easy to justify the why of why it mattered. We talked earlier about what mattered, so this is why it mattered.
But we didn't just stop with digital analytics there. While there was certainly room for uplift themselves in the flows, the usability testing with dummy accounts continued to perform well, but some payments themselves continued to perform suboptimally online. We needed to get to the root cause of this issue quickly. We explored so many different types of options, following large cohorts of customers on their payments journey or intercepting live transactions in the call centre with surveys to understand more. But both of these were really time-consuming options. The digital analytics team suggested that we tag the experience and the range of errors that customers were experiencing to identify which errors were occurring at scale.
So we were already using a data layer approach to our analytics implementation, meaning we had a really detailed framework in place, which means that code gets populated onto the page for any range of interactions. That code gets picked up by the tag manager and based on the rules that we set in that tag manager. And that is then delivered into a report so it can be into our reporting suite so it can be used by our reporting team. And as Lou said, when we started to look at the payment journey, we identified further tagging opportunities. And one of the key parts here was deliberately tagging our errors that our members were seeing in much greater detail. By working with our front-end developers and our own tagging team, we were able to capture the error type, so if it was like a full-page error or like a pop-up modal, for example, the actual error message itself, as well as the back-end error trigger. And this was really important because there were a number of back-end errors triggering the same message, and we really needed to capture this level of granularity to understand it further. It allowed us to drill down and identify the most frequent errors that were occurring across the journey, and then which ones were causing the greatest impact as part of our further fallout analysis.
By leveraging digital analytics and tagging to identify this root cause, we'd also quantified the impact on our customer base, helping us identify which payment errors to go after first. But it also enabled deeper buy-in and engagement with our colleagues in product and finance. This engagement supported our service designers and our digital self-service lead to map and unpack the business rules driving these errors. And then we co-designed updated payment rules to enable more customers to pay online. Knowing the size and the impact of these errors also allowed us to quantify the value in call volume reduction to RACV. Having both the size of the impact as well as that cost to RACV gave us, but also our stakeholders, the confidence to reshuffle our backlogs and push these changes live at pace.
And then closing the loop on our delivered outcomes has been critical to our process. Having the digital analytics framework in place, it allowed us to report back quickly post-go live and to confirm that the updated experience was performing as expected and to quantify the impact of that work delivered. So from this digital payment example alone, we were able to show that the design changes equated to an additional 5,500 payments completed on the website in an average month. This is a huge uplift in the experience for our members and our customers, and also provided significant savings for RACV. Having the proper tagging and the reporting mechanisms from our investigation also meant that providing this back to the business was relatively quick and easy.
And connecting the impacts of our redesign work to data not only just improved the outcomes for our customers, but it also allowed us to communicate our work with more certainty. Bringing this data into our practice has evolved the dialogue that we have with our stakeholders. We now use both hypotheses and opportunity size when discussing our work slate, focus areas, and advocating for new initiatives. Having this data is easily accessible has also made prioritisation as well as reprioritisation just so much easier and faster. And it's really allowed us to articulate why certain customer experiences should be prioritised over others. But how does this all relate to trust? Well, we found that when we improved how we used measurement, reframed how we collaborated, and built upon the design process with different methods, that trust in design increased significantly. But why is this the case? Well, firstly, improving the way that we measure through using digital analytics has allowed us to connect design to more tangible and quantified outcomes. Previously, we might have made a design change and seen some downstream impacts, but we didn't have the data or proof to say this change resulted in this outcome. With our adapted practice, in most situations, we can confidently demonstrate the impact to the customer as well as our bottom line that our design work has delivered. But that's just the start. We found that by measuring the value of the work that we deliver, both proactively and often, has continually shown our stakeholders the value and return on investment of design. This constant reminder has just been so highly effective in building trust in design. There's been times where demonstrating the opportunity or the direct return on investment has just been more challenging, or times where we've needed to act at pace and haven't had the luxury of time to do that analysis. But this regular measurement, it's provided a bridge of trust and allowed us to hold the buy-in and authority on the design process when measurement and data just haven't been available. And
collaboration was also a key principle to getting measurement right. So we needed to identify gaps in experience, but also gaps where we lost the visibility in our data capture. This has given us the opportunity to improve our tagging function that's in line with the experience improvement. And when we look at collaboration, we found that by taking a place of empathy for our colleagues and stakeholders and really taking the time to understand their drivers and the motivators in their work, it's allowed us to connect design and analytics more deeply and build trust in our ways of working. So to finish up, if we were to suggest a checklist about how digital analytics could further enrich the design process, it would look something like this. As a team, an opportunity for improvement gets identified through our custom insights, and we would validate these insights at scale with digital data. We would then use that digital data to identify the value of this opportunity using the right metrics, and from there we would remain part of the design ideation and delivery process so that we can understand the problem to solve and help set the correct outcome metrics. At this stage, we would also inform areas of opportunity for improved digital tagging if it was required. And once both design and tagging opportunities are ready, they would be handed over to the development team as a collective. We would then work to ensure all design and tagging validation is carried out, and once we go live, the analytics team would create the reports that get socialised out to the business, but once again, it would be in collaboration with the teams involved.
So if any of this has piqued your interest, or you're just interested in finding out more about RACV or our Design and Digital Experience team, then come on down to our RACV open house tomorrow from 12 to 1:30. Over lunch, we'll be sharing more about how we work, delve deeper into design and digital analytics in practice together, and share a little bit about what digital delivery looks like for us. We really hope to see you there. So thanks so much for having us today, and a huge thanks to Sherry DeLeon, one of our RACV service designers, who's designed the illustrations in our presentation today.
Thank you.
Thanks.